I'm Tim Malloy with the Palm Beach Civic Association. It is Thursday, March the 26th. Here is the very latest in conjunction with the town of Palm Beach Fire Rescue and the police department. Everything stands. Lake Trail may change. The rules there are being reconsidered, and we'll have more on that tomorrow. That's an important factor in everybody's life because it is a place of refuge, and some controversial and difficult decisions were made about who could be on it and when. We'll have more on that tomorrow. Essentially, we are in a shelter-in-place mode. People are encouraged to stay in their homes. You, of course, allowed to go outside. Most of the businesses are closed, have been asked to close. Hotels, restaurants as well. It's a difficult job running the show and something like this, and no one's ever done it before. Kurt Bluen, our town supervisor, talked to me on the phone today. Try to encourage everybody to, this is wartime on a certain level. For those of us who remember Iraq, Afghanistan, and our parents, my parents, World War II, great sacrifices had to be made. So I asked him about that, and he gave me some pretty interesting personal information.
There was a lot of controversy as it relates to simpler things like rules on the bike trail that were just intended to try to keep people safe. That is somewhat of a failure, and that's going to be discussed tomorrow. Ultimately, the whole bike trail may get shut down. The real tough choices are family members. I can only relay my personal experience. I feel an extreme obligation to be here for the community during these really tough times. We have told my mother-in-law, who's a big help to my family, particularly with the children, it gives me and my wife a break, that she cannot come around during this time because we don't know who she's been exposed to while she's still working and living her life. And the same applies to my elderly mother. I've been giving her instructions every day and sharing that same information with her, about isolating herself and taking all the precautionary measures. I've been leaving the packages and groceries at her door or having them delivered. But unfortunately, I told her it's not safe for me to visit her right now. There's no way of knowing if I am a carrier of this virus. So those are the really tough choices. But this is temporary. In the big scheme and journey of life, these are tough choices, temporary choices, but we all need to be responsible.
All over the world and all over our country, important scientific institutions and researchers are working like crazy right now to find a vaccine and to circulate more test kits because we need them. We're not doing any testing here in Palm Beach County. You could not get a test in Palm Beach if you wanted to. With that in mind, Wendy Rutledge spoke to a renowned local institution doing all it can.
Tim, our signature sponsor, Scripps Research, is one of the leading research institutes in this country, if not the world. And right now, Scripps is throwing a lot of brain power into all the many issues surrounding COVID-19, including, of course, testing and a possible vaccine. So to learn more in-depth information about exactly what Scripps Research is doing, we had a chance to speak with the Executive Vice President, Doug Bingham.
At Scripps, we're investigating the biology of the virus. What's its life cycle? How does it invade cells?
If researchers can understand the transmission of COVID-19, both from person to person and within the human body, they can begin to develop ways to stop it, both with treatments and vaccines.
The Farzan lab is looking at a couple of different types of vaccines. They're called subunit vaccines. It's already made antibodies with a subunit of the spike protein. We're trying to find drugs, new drugs, or repurpose old drugs, even more hopefully, that can inhibit. So basically, these would be pills or shots that would inhibit the replication of the virus or slow the replication down or kill the virus. At the end of the day, we don't know. We may find a vaccine that works today against this strain, but we may find that this coronavirus has a seasonality to it for some reason. It may present us with a new strain like flu does in the fall or every fall. So we're going to have to be able to produce vaccines to new strains potentially.
Doug Bingham says Scripps researchers are working closely with labs all over the world.
We're collaborating with labs all over the world, including CDC and NIH. We're working 7/24 on this.
For the Palm Beach Civic Association, I'm Wendy Rutledge reporting.
Time now for a few moments with Maggie Zedman, who, as you all know, is a councilwoman, but also was a nurse in New York City, ran the nursing program at Lenox Hill Hospital. So uniquely qualified to talk about town doings as well as your health and everything concerning this virus right now. So here's Maggie now.
Good afternoon. We awakened to a new reality this morning. One of our own residents has succumbed to the coronavirus, and that's going to make everyone sad. It's also going to do this. It's going to hit home that this is a reality that we're going to continue to deal with. So while we're all very sad, it also means we need to take very special precautions going forward, just to do everything that we've been trying to do all along. Stay home, stay away from people, hand hygiene, etc. Those are the things that we need to put into place. So while this is a very sad day, it's also a wake-up call to all of us, because this will continue. We will have more cases of COVID-19. We already do in town, and we're going to need to take all of the precautions that we have talked about. If you do that, we can flatten the curve. So far, that curve has not been flattened because we are continuing to see more cases here in Palm Beach County and in Florida. So I just wanted to go over that with you and to remind you to do the things that we put in place. One area that's kind of a hot spot here in town, by the way, is our own public store. And they're doing everything they can to help us, and we need to do everything that we can to help them, which means don't crowd around the checkout counter. Don't crowd there. Maintain the distance of 6 feet between people. Try to stay away from the poor cashiers. They will be putting plexiglass up, and that's going to help a lot. But right now, until that gets up, which I hope it gets up very soon, we need to maintain the distance as best we can. They're there for us, and we need to do the right thing for them. Have you called anyone on your list today? That's another reminder to all of us to reach out to people who are alone and to people who are at home with symptoms. They're afraid too. Don't stigmatize people who have symptoms of COVID-19. We don't know if they have COVID-19 or not. But guess what? You might have COVID-19. So be kind, be generous of heart to everyone, and make sure that you are reaching out to people who might be alone. Now let's think about this. What if, we talked about symptoms the other day, but what if you have symptoms? Okay, so the recommendation is that you call your doctor, you discuss your symptoms with him, he will tell you what to do. He'll know if you meet the criteria for getting tested. There are very few tests here in the state of Florida. We've gone over the reasons, and they are 1, 2, 3. 1, not enough test kits. Number 2, the reagent is not available. Number 3, parts for the machines that run the tests, that's an issue too. Commercial labs are doing the tests. Quest Lab will be releasing a lot of results, so expect to see a bump in once those are released. There are about 4,000 results that are going to be released, and you're going to see a big spike in the number of cases. So that's going to happen as they gather all of these results and they release them. You see a lot of a jump up in the test. That puts a big burden on by the way, today we have 150 beds in Palm Beach County, ICU beds available. So it puts such a strain on the capacity of the hospital, on the doctors, on the nurses. So we need to continue to do all we can. But let's say you have symptoms. So you isolate at home, which is what the doctor is going to tell you to do, 14 days. But let's say around day 5 to day 8, you start to feel worse. And what do I mean by feeling worse? It means that's the shortness of breath part, also called dyspnea, difficulty breathing. And it means this, that you feel like you can't get enough air, that you feel like when you're talking and you're talking in sentences, you're kind of gasping also. The other thing that you might feel is a little lightheaded, a little confused, more confused than usual, a little dizzy, not steady on your feet. So those things too are a sign of not oxygenating well. So it would mean that you have really active and severe lung involvement. That's when you need to call 911. And they're going to ask you questions. They're going to ask you about coughing. They're going to ask you if you have a fever. They're going to ask you, obviously, if you're having difficulty breathing. And they will ask you probably if you have traveled anywhere where there's a high incidence. And by the way, the tri-state area is an area of high incidence. So they will come and they will get you, they will take care of you. Our paramedics are absolutely wonderful and so highly, highly skilled and educated that they're going to take good care of you. They will be wearing suits. Don't let that bother you. They need to do that. That's protective equipment, and that's why they ask you the questions in the beginning. So that's what will happen, and they will take you to the emergency room. Now, one other thing I want to mention before we end this tape for today is this. Anyone who's come from the tri-state area must quarantine for 14 days. It's not a suggestion, it's not an urging, and it's not a recommendation. You must. It's a mandate. So I'll leave you with that. I hope you all stay well. I hope you will take heed and stay at home. Don't be around other people. If you are around people, you must use social distance. That's 6 feet. Good hand hygiene. Don't touch your face. And I'll see you again tomorrow.
So again, tomorrow, Friday, there should be changes in the rules, or at least a discussion of the rules on the lake trail, which has become a very volatile issue for people starving to get outside. We ask you again to just abide by those social contact rules and do the best you can to heed the warnings of the health department, the police, and fire rescue. We are all in this together. It will ultimately end. We're sort of heading into the peak of this right now, so all caution is advised. Stay well. We'll talk to you tomorrow.